Hey, Coach. We've obviously talked to Rolovich a lot about the quarterback battle. What's kind of your take on it and what you've seen from these guys, especially with the scrimmage yesterday?
Yeah, it's still a battle, and there's a lot of kids that are doing good things. The thing that Cam really showed in the scrimmage was just a little more of his veteran presence. I think was good. I think he's starting to get through his reads a lot quicker. He manages the group and manages the offense at a high level. Jaden brings an explosiveness to him. I think you saw in the stats some of his rushing stats. So he's a twitchy kid. He's got the ability to extend plays. He has some familiarity with our offense already that I think has helped him early on in this process. And one of Gunner's big strengths right now is he's got great leadership. He's commanding the huddle well. He's handling our run game very well. So I think he's got some good confidence that he can continue to progress with too. And Victor is just a young kid, is continuing to get better and better. And he's someone that we're really excited about for the future of the program too. He continues to throw the ball better and he continues to learn at a higher rate. So it just as a freshman walk-on kid, we're excited about him too.
And another player I'm kind of interested about. We've talked a lot about the wide receivers as well, but a name we haven't really heard much is Calvin Jackson Jr. I know he didn't have a catch on the stat sheet yesterday. Can you kind of talk about his involvement in the offense so far?
Yes, Calvin's veteran, and that presence has been great. And it kind of as far as the stats within the scrimmage, a lot of times in scrimmage we're trying to get certain things called to see things for certain guys. Like another kid that you didn't see much of in the stat sheet was Dion McIntosh, and he was someone that really got a good chunk of carries in our first kind of live period that we did our first day in pads a few days ago. So just because someone didn't say get a good amount of stats in that scrimmage doesn't mean that they aren't doing well for us. But I think his experience just playing college football, it has helped him a lot so far. He has a lot of confidence. He's a veteran kid. He has the ability to stretch the field vertically, which is really important for us.
And last question for me, going back to that stat sheet, we saw a big day from Joey Hobert, and we've heard a lot from Rolovich and a bunch of the other players, but I'd like to kind of get your take on him as a player, especially as a true freshman.
Just as a kid and as a person, if there's a personality style that fits this offense, it's his. He's a kid that loves football, loves learning. You can tell that his dad was a coach. His dad was a high level player because it shows in him and just his awareness, and that's allowed him to really embrace what we do offensively and adjust the coverage as well. And he's a kid that's just really fun to be around, and and he keeps impressing us every single day. He makes tough catches. He's a tough physical kid. When you talk about receivers that come in physically ready to play college football, that was something that he did. So he's really doing a good job with Travell and Renard and rolling with those guys. And, I think that's a really good initial core of slots between those three.
Thank you.
Other questions? Theo Lawson, go ahead.
You guys are about 8 or 9 practices into camp now. Do you start to whittle the quarterback competition down to 2 guys and start to kind of showcase 2 guys at practice from here on out, or is it still going to be all 3 guys this coming week?
Traditionally, I would say yes. With the nature of a COVID season, in our mind, we got to try to develop all those kids to be able to play for us. So I think you're going to continue to see that whole group continue to get reps in practice and continue to work to get better. Obviously, you would love to be able to say that one of those guys is your starter and he's really pulling away from everybody else, and you can focus on that one kid a little more. But we've got to be ready to win games with all 3 of those kids. And as we get closer to games, it might start to look more like we're developing what each of those kids can do really well and execute at a high level for us. But I don't see us necessarily going straight to 2 or 1 really close in these next few days.
where do you think you guys are a little bit ahead of schedule as far as learning the offense, and where do you think you guys are still maybe a step or two behind at this point of camp?
Where we're continuing to develop now is building on what's in. The base is all in. Now we have to build on some of the formations, some of the tweaks that we do with that. So more in the red zone. We don't have all those calls in yet. Building on some of our empty packages. So the base of the offense is in, and I think they're picking it up very well. Now it's just starting to build on those base concepts that are in.
We saw in the scrimmage test yesterday. I think Javensley Bazell had something like 90 yards, a bunch of carries. What are you kind of seeing from Javensley? And could you see a situation where you guys are able to kind of play three different running backs at the same time?
JoJo's just an explosive kid, and he's another one that's fun to be around. What he has to really embrace is that in this offense, that back has to be a great protector too. And if they're not going to do that, it becomes harder for them to get on the field because that becomes a liability. So that's something that we're really working with him to emphasize more and have him develop better at, because he does bring a little different element than those other kids, where he can probably outrun just about everybody on the field. And that kid can roll. And you saw it in the scrimmage yesterday that he has some big playability. So he's one that we're excited about, and he's been a great kid for me, and is really embracing what we're doing offensively. But I'd like to see him become more of a physical player and embrace the protection part of it more.
Zach Armstrong, go ahead.
Coach, when we spoke to Dion, he seemed pretty excited to let us know that the running backs are spending some time out at receiver. What do you think that brings for your offense, especially having guys like Dion and Max out there, and how are they handling some of the routes?
I think they're handling that transition well. The last few years at Hawaii, empty was something that we did a pretty good amount. And when we were in empty, we were always in 5 wide receivers. When we got here and just looking at the room that I had, that was something that I wanted to try to develop within this group, was the ability to go 5 wide receivers, play more empty without making personnel changes. And that's something that we're starting to build into more of that, probably in this next week or so. Now they've been working on it for a while, and they've been, I think, doing well developing as receivers. And that's something that Max really wanted to embrace too and work on more, because he caught a lot of balls this last year, but a lot of them, swings, check downs, things like that, not truly running routes as a receiver or running routes as a running back. So that was an area that I know he wanted to expand more and get better at too.
And we touched on pass pro a little bit, but how do you think Max is handling the increased staying in the backfield, protecting?
Good. And it's something that he's got to get better at because it is new to him. So fundamentally, we're continuing to work to get him better and better. And that has been a change for him, but it's something that he's embraced, and he understands that it's part of the offense. It's part of what's going to help us win. There hasn't been a time so far in camp where he said, hey, can I just check out of here? He understands what we do, and that it's a different system than what he was doing before, and I think he likes the changes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? Raise your hand. Theo, go ahead.
You were on the radio show, I believe it was last week with Chaz Mountain-Brink and all those guys, and you kind of talked a little bit about play calling and kind of who calls the plays. And you said Coach Rolovich will call plays every now and then. How do you guys kind of determine when you call plays and when he kind of jumps in and calls his own plays? And how do you guys divvy that up?
When you're the head coach, you can call him whenever you want. So when he gets on the headset and says, "I want to see something," then it's all his, and he rolls. That's part of I think the relationship that Rolo and I have of, working together for a very long time and knowing each other for an extremely long time, that there's a lot of trust between the two of us. And it's easy for us to kind of jump back and forth with each other and, kind of understand where each other's coming from. So, if he wants to call something, he's more than welcome to call things at any time. Kind of the way that we've done it is, I've been the lead caller that's, calling the plays as we go. And then as we get to something where he sees something he wants to get to, or there's a situation where he wants to run something, he jumps on and, he calls what he wants. And I think that it's been good for him because it's a different feel when you're calling plays every single play throughout the game. And then when you get to actually kind of hear the plays, see the calls, you get a little different perspective when you're not thinking about what that next call is in the moment of the play. So I think he likes that he gets to kind of see how people are playing us and, think of what he wants next and then jump in when he's ready.